Okay, good morning, Algebra 2. So we're going to do our final bit on rationals this week. We're going to go ahead and solve rational equations. So rational equations are just equations that have rational expressions in them. Remember, rational expression is when you have a fraction with a polynomial in the numerator or denominator. So we have two methods that we're going to use to solve these guys. Number one, if we have just a single fraction on either side of our equal sign, we can just do some cross multiplying. So I'll show you that first method on number one. This is something that you've done in the past, so it shouldn't be too bad. All we're going to do, because we have a single fraction on either side, is we're just going to cross multiply, which means I multiply the 7 and the x, and I set it equal to what I get when I do 4 times x minus 6. You got to make sure whenever you have more than one term, you put parentheses around it. So then I just have a pretty easy equation to solve. I'm going to distribute the 4 and get my variable on one side and then isolate it, and it looks like you get -8. Okay, sometimes, like in number 2, you might have a situation where you end up having more than one term in two different parts. So we have a minus 8 here and 2a plus 1 here. Even though that's the case, we still only have a single fraction on either side, so we can still just cross multiply. Just remember, you got to put parentheses. So I'm going to do 3 times 2a plus 1 equals 7 times a minus 8. So on each side I have to distribute and then solve from there. So I'm going to subtract 6a and add 56 and get something like 59 for my answer there. Okay, so now let's move on to something that's a little bit different. On number 3, we still only have a single fraction on either side. Okay? But what you'll notice is when we cross multiply these guys, so it would be r times r, that's r squared, equals 4 times r minus 1, right? We end up with a quadratic. So I'm going to distribute that 4. And remember, with a quadratic, the way we solve these guys, we actually set them equal to 0. And then we go ahead and we either factor or use our quadratic formula. So I'm going to subtract 4r. Got to keep them separate because they're not like terms. I'm also going to add 4. So I got r squared minus 4r plus 4 equals 0. And now that it's equal to 0, I can factor it. I'm going to pop up with my factoring over here. Remember, factoring is where we break it up. We need two things that multiply to positive 4 and combine to negative 4 here. Right? And the two numbers that do that are -2 and -2. And then we can use our zero product property, which means we just set each of our factors equal to 0 and solve them. In this case, it looks like for both these guys, we just get r equals 2. So our only answer is just going to be r equals 2. For number 4, it's also pretty similar, where we're going to end up with a quadratic, but here you'll notice we have two terms that are being multiplied, two binomials that are being multiplied together. So we're going to have m minus 2 times m plus 3 is equal to 3 times 8 is 24. So we still were able to do the cross multiplying because we only had a single fraction on either side. Okay, but now we have a little bit different of a setup. I have to FOIL this. So m squared first, outer is 3m, inner is minus 2m, and then I get minus 6. Okay, and you'll notice we have this quadratic term. I'm going to combine like terms here. 3m minus 2m is m. And then with the quadratic, we just went over it in the last problem, we have to set it equal to 0. So I got m squared plus m minus 30 equals 0. And then we want to factor a quadratic in order to solve it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have m, and I'm going to think of two things that multiply to -30 and also combine to give me positive 1. Those two numbers are positive 6 and negative 5. And then I can just use my zero product property. I'm going to set each of those guys equal to 0 and solve them. And it looks like I got two answers. I got m equals negative 6 and also positive 5. Okay, so let's have you guys go ahead and try number 5 on your own. So pause the video, and then when you're ready, unpause it, and I'll go over this guy. So with this one, you should have noticed we only have a single fraction on either side, so you can cross multiply. So I got y times y plus 5 equals 3 times y plus 8. You got to distribute these guys, and you get something like that. And then you should notice, hey, I got y squared. That's a quadratic, so I got to get this guy equal to 0. So y squared plus 2y equals 24. I got that by subtracting 3y on either side. I can subtract 24 here. And then I'm in a situation where I can factor. So I got to think of two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and combine to positive 2. I'm thinking positive 6 and negative 4. So those are the two guys we're going to set equal to 0. And solve. So one answer is negative 6 and the other is positive 4. So we got negative 6 and 4. All right. So for today, we're going to leave it at that. What I want you to do for the homework is homework 9. And let's have you guys try numbers 1 through 4. 4 is a little tough with the factoring. You're going to end up getting something that's an a value greater than 1. So remember, the homework answers are available if you're struggling on number 4. I hope you guys have a great day.